I have invested in about 12 or 13 companies so far.
Hmm.
And because I am personally involved, I always get the feeling that it's my company, right?
Hmm.
And quite frankly, I don't want an exit. A lot of people have asked me, have you got exit? So I have got two, three exits, but I don't want an exit. It's my company. Why should I exit? I'm having such fun. I'm learning. I'm figuring out what direction it takes.
Hmm.
Why should I change that, right? So
Exactly.
I am very, very heavily involved, and that's, I think, the fun part of life. First of all, very happy to be here with you. Even though you're only about 2 or 3 years younger than me, it's always good to be with younger people. I feel young. See, I have, for the last approximately 6, 7 years, I have been spending a lot of time with startups,
Yeah.
right? And as an angel investor and a mentor to a lot of startups.
Yeah.
And my colleague, Sushanto Mitra, who's the founder and CEO of Lead Angels, he has been with startups for probably 20 odd years.
Okay.
Now, one thing which we realized was a lot of founders actually have no clue about how to A, run a business, well, A, start a business, B, run the business, and C, raise funding. They have no
Yes.
clue, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
For whatever reason. So we said, okay, we've been mentoring these students for a long time.
Hmm.
But when you mentor somebody, it's only one to one. Can we put all this in the form of a book? So
Yeah.
that's how it started.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then, we started searching. So we said, look, if it has to be a book, then obviously it has to be Indian cases.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, I would say 90 to 95% of books are American cases. They talk about Airbnb, they talk about Google, they talk
Google.
about,
Yeah.
all the Hotmail and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
A guy here, the environment here is so different in India
Hmm.
that those cases actually nobody can relate to, right? So we said, let's knock that out.
Hmm.
So that actually brought it down to only about 5 or 10% of the books.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then we said, look, and I'll take a parallel from your industry, the movie industry.
Yeah.
Right? Um, we said, look, if you look at Indian books, and there are a few, there aren't too many, but there are a few.
Hmm.
Most of them talk about the huge success stories. Guys like Byju's and just hold on, Byju's and Ola cabs and Oyo
Yeah.
rooms and Grofers and Big Basket. So again, the problem is the the founder, the guy who's just starting up,
Hmm.
or maybe has been starting up for the last couple of years, he again cannot identify with these guys. But these guys are now, they're mammoths, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll just give you a parallel, like I said, from your industry.
Hmm.
If you want to learn acting,
Yeah.
it's great to go to Bombay and meet Shah Rukh Khan and learn from him.
Hmm.
But you also need to meet the guy who is, there is some music in the background, I think.
Yeah, sorry about that. So that was my mom actually. She
Don't
was
worry.
doing the Kathak and
No
everything.
problem. No problem.
Yeah.
No, you can record the Tatha Thaiya. I mean, that is probably fun as well. Yeah. So anyway, so it's great to learn from Shah Rukh Khan, but you also need to learn. In fact, you probably learn much more from the guys who started off 1 or 2 years back.
Hmm.
Some of them are still struggling. Some of them have started making it big.
Yeah.
Those are the guys you really identify with and you can learn from, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, if you look at the cases, stories about such startups, actually there is no such book. So it
Yeah.
came down to zero, right?
Hmm.
So we said, okay, we will talk about the smaller guys that you can identify with, number
Yeah.
one.
Hmm.
Number two, but we will also have the big guys
Hmm.
because we've taken a lot of, we've interviewed people like Sanjeev Bhikhchandani, who's the founder of Naukri, or Deep
But
Kalra, who's the founder of Make My Trip, or Yashish Dahiya, who's the founder of Policy Bazaar. So we've got these guys as well as a lot of chotus. So
hmm.
that's number three.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue is nobody talks about failures,
Yeah.
right? But you probably learn far, far more from failures than you do from success. Why? So what we said was, since we've encountered so many startups in our life, we will also pick up some failures. In some cases, we change the names just to protect the identity of the person. And we've also written about failure. So the book actually has stories about failures and successes. So you learn from both of them. And I think the last thing is, you can have a book that talks about lots and lots of cases, but ultimately what you learn from them. So what we did was we created a framework which I will call persistent. In fact, I have it here. So maybe I'll talk about it if you give me a chance. So persistent is an acronym. Yeah, it's an acronym. Each letter of it stands for something. And we say, look, try and evaluate your startup from the point of view of persistent, because this will help you create a better startup. No guarantee, obviously. And B, this is exactly what investors are also looking for. So that's really, when we cross step 2, we realize there's no such book. So it's actually fairly unique. And I must tell you, it was real fun to write.
Yeah, for sure, sir. I can imagine, like, I am talking to you right now. It must be really interesting to read the book as well, sir. Oh, oh, the screen froze. Am I audible? Am I visible there, sir? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
And am I moving? Can you see my screen moving?
I
I
can
guess.
hear you. I can see your beard. I can see your mustache. They are a different color from mine, but that's
Manageable.
okay. Yeah.
So, like, how has your life changed from like being a professor at MBI and VP at NIIT and now being an angel investor, a mentor for startups? So, how was this transition and the journey like for you?
Uh, First of all three phases. So I've
Hmm.
had three phases in life, right?
Hmm.
First was industry, NIT. Second was, in fact, I had four phases. Even before NIT, I was doing my doctorate at IIT Delhi, and I was also working there. So that
Hmm.
was a short 3-year phase.
Yeah.
But if you look at NIT, it was great fun
Hmm.
because I was learning a lot. Every 2-3 years, I was going into different roles, and therefore it
Hmm.
was like almost joining a new company with the same boss. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
MDI was again a lot of fun because MDI, see the advantage of such good institutes. There are 2-3 major advantages. Number one, you come in contact with extremely high caliber students. And
Hmm.
when you come in contact with such high caliber students, the advantage is A, you learn from them, and B,
Hmm.
it is challenging because very often in class I don't have answers,
Yeah.
right? And I have to come back and think. And often I don't have the answer even after thinking, and my students supply the answer. So
Hmm.
it is phenomenal learning. The second advantage, of course, is that you're always there with youngsters, right? And that makes you feel young, right? And of course, a place like MDI gives you a lot of freedom to do what you want. So I like to write books. This, by the way, is my fourth book.
Yeah.
I've written three before this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I didn't like doing research. I didn't do research. I did some consulting,
Hmm.
lot of writing, lot of fun. Now that I'm into this third innings, which actually started about 3 years back, sorry, 6 years back.
Hmm.
But today it is likely to be the most fun of all.
Hmm.
And I must tell you, I am retiring today, right,
Yeah.
from MDI.
Hmm.
But the way I look at it, my career is really beginning because I have full freedom. I have
Hmm.
no need to, slog myself and earn a salary. I don't have that need,
Hmm.
and I have freedom. I can do what I want. Right. So I spend a lot of time with Lead Angels Network, right?
Yeah.
Because that's more or less my baby, along with Sushanto's. And B, I mentor a whole number of young startups. And as before, I keep learning from them and I stay young. And before COVID times, it used to be great fun because typically anybody who wanted advice from me, and fortunately, there are some people in the world who actually want advice from me. So I would call them to a place like, CCD or barista or whatever. I tell
Yeah.
them, boss, jitna khana khao, jitna
Huh.
peena pio, I will advise you,
Huh.
payment I will make, right? It used to be such great fun. Unfortunately, during COVID times, that is stopped, but it will start again. So I think all three phases have been great fun and a lot of learning in all three phases.
Can you elaborate a little more? Ki, after being an investor, what has changed? Like exactly, like your pattern, the way of thinking, your headspace. How has it evolved?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I think two, three things have happened. So I'll tell you. Now, firstly, I'm not a very conventional angel investor, right?
Hmm.
Because a typical angel investor is interested in putting in money and at the end of 4 years or 5 years, taking an exit at a higher valuation, right?
Hmm.
That's a very typical angel investor because he's a financial investor. It's
Exactly.
like investing in the stock market.
Hmm.
My purpose is a little different. My purpose is I like to be involved. So, if I invest in, let's say, Reliance Industries, there is
Hmm.
no way in hell I can sit across the table with Mukesh Ambani and
Exactly.
strategize with him as to what direction Jio should take. There's no way in hell, right? Or
Yeah.
even a smaller company. But here, I sit with founders
Uh,
and, jointly strategize. We figure out what's going wrong, what change in direction to take, and so on. And it is great fun and huge learning, huge
hmm.
learning. So, I have invested in about 12 or 13 companies so far.
Hmm.
And because I am personally involved, I always get the feeling that it's my company, right?
Hmm.
And quite frankly, I don't want an exit. A lot of people have asked me, have you got exits? So I have got two, three exits, but I don't want an exit. It's my company. Why should I exit? I'm having such fun. I'm learning. I'm figuring out what direction it takes.
Hmm.
Why should I change that, right? So
Exactly.
I am very, very heavily involved, and that's, I think, the fun part of life.
Hmm.
Now, within angel investing, I must tell you what has happened, and that's been a learning experience for me. So when I started, which was around 6 odd years ago, um, at that time, my investments were predominantly out of excitement. अरे क्या बढ़िया idea, terrific idea, great guy, डालो पैसा. All right. My wife was always very unhappy with this, but I
Yeah.
used to put money. Put on. I'm a very small angel, right? I typically put in 5 lakhs, not more.
Oh, okay.
That's all. So I'm definitely not the Ratan Tata Varek. I don't even
Hmm.
look like him, as you can see. So uh, I put in small amounts, but I lost money in several cases. Right? And I've realized over the years that there is a lot of learning to be done here. So initially it was all based on excitement. Now it is based on hardcore evaluation of the company, hardcore evaluation, right? And in fact, today I use the persistent model, which I keep talking about in my book. Right? So the investments which I made in the last 2, 3 years, as compared to the investments I made in the first 3, 4 years, these last 2, 3 years, they've been far, far better investments. And they're already, I mean, if I take an exit today, I don't have a chance, but if I do, I'll already make a lot of money. Right? So I think it's been a learning experience for me as an investor. And I think that's true of most investors. It's a learning experience. You learn
Exactly.
over time. But,
So, what all factors do you consider before investing in a company? Like, what do you
yeah.
look for?
So maybe should I take you through the persistent framework?
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's typically what we look at. Okay.
Please.
So let me see if I can show you this.
Yeah, it's visible.
I think you can see it. Let me
Hmm.
remove my cursor. Okay. So basically what we tell people is the investor and the founder ultimately want the same thing, right? They want the company to do well,
Yes.
all right? And they want the company to grow successfully, at some stage make a profit,
Hmm.
and therefore ultimately the investor will take an exit at hopefully a higher valuation.
Hmm.
So, what does the company need to do to ensure that A, it succeeds, and B, it is attractive to the investor? Right?
Yes.
That's the persistent model, which we have in the book.
Hmm.
So, P, each of them stands for something. Right? P stands for problem. Are you
Hmm.
solving a problem for your customer? Right?
Hmm.
You have to identify who your customer and are you solving a problem for him? Because
Yeah.
if you're not, there's no way in hell you're going to make money. Right?
Exactly.
Second is E, which is earnings model. Right?
Hmm.
Very important because somewhere you have to make money. Even if you're solving a problem for your customer, if he's not willing to pay you, he says, boss, मेरे को free में चाहिए, you won't make money,
Yeah.
right? So that's E, the earnings model. R stands for risk. And obviously, every business has risks. And one of the biggest risks that you normally have is the risk of competition, which is why you need to have what I call an entry barrier, which is something you do within your business to prevent your competitor from getting in and potentially eating into your market share.
Yeah.
So entry barrier is the second E, which is, I can't see it. Yeah, right. The second E, that's entry barrier. Then S is size of the market. Because if
Yeah.
the size of the market is small, you can't grow. And therefore, there's no point in creating a startup.
Exactly.
I is innovation.
Hmm.
And if you have innovative solutions, for example, if you have a patent, then you potentially have a very good entry barrier. Right? The second,
Like IP, intellectual property, is what you're saying?
yeah, correct.
Hmm.
IP, patent, whatever. Right? The second S stands for scalability,
Yeah.
because you may have a huge market size, but if you don't scale rapidly, your competitor who potentially has more money can scale faster than you, and ultimately he kills you, right? So
Yeah.
scalability is important. The next thing is T, which is traction. Traction is extremely important because at the end of the day, are you actually making, are you getting customers? Are you making money? Are the customers increasing month on month and so on, right? E has spoken about. N is if you are in a crowded market, right? Lots of players, lots of competitors don't get in. Try and identify a large enough niche within this market which is not crowded.
Yeah.
All right. And the final T in the word persistent is stands for team. And team basically is what? It's founder downwards. Because we believe very strongly, even if you have an average business model and there are problems, a good founder will make sure that things turn out well. Maybe he'll pivot the business model a couple of times. But if you have a great business model but an average founder, doesn't make sense, right? So this is what um, uh, people look for. Well, both the founder needs to look for as well as the investor. And this is what we follow now. But like I told you, it's taken about 6-7 years of learning.
So what exactly is an average founder? When you said average founder, what does that mean exactly?
So I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. And I'll pick up one of the stories from here. Right?
Yeah.
In fact, this is a slightly modified story. So we had a very interesting group of people, tech people, very strongly tech people, very bright guys.
Yeah.
I think there were 3 founders, 2 or 3 founders, and they came and they told us, look, we have designed something called a waterless urinal, right? And this was about 4 or 5 years back.
Yeah.
Now, they made a pitch to us investors. They presented their startup just about, I think, 2 months after Prime Minister Modi announced Swachh Bharat Abhiyan from the Red Fort, right? Now, suddenly all the investors got so excited. Why? Because, Prime Minister has said we need to build 2 crore toilets. But where is the water? Right? Now, suddenly these guys have a solution where you don't need water. So we got tremendously excited. And, we spent some time studying their design. We said, "Bahut badhiya, great, wonderful, let's go ahead." So we said, how will you sell this? Oh, they said, we'll appoint distributors, which made sense because ultimately this will have to be sold through typically hardware shops or sanitary ware shops. So they need distributors. We said, great. So we gave them about, I think, 2 months. We said, give us 2 months to evaluate the business in some detail. At the end of 2 months, I think we are on. So we spent some time studying their business. Very happy. Called them back at the end of 2 months. And, these guys were looking so excited. So we said, why are you so excited? Oh, sir, now we are working on a female version of the same thing.
What do you mean exactly? Female version?
All of us investors, a female version. Earlier it was a urinal, so only for males.
Okay.
Now they are working on a female version of a waterless toilet, right? So we said, hang on, but what happened to the earlier one, that huge opportunity you had? You had to appoint distributors. Haan, sahab, karenge. Don't worry, sir. We will do it, sir. At a stroke, our interest in that company was over. At a stroke. And very simple reason why, because we realized these guys were very good tech guys, very good designers, but they had no business sense. Absolutely no business sense. So, when I talk about average An example where everything was in good shape except the team. The team was led by three founders who had no business sense. So we said, boss, if you can get one more person as co-founder and that person has business sense, he can actually market this product, then we are interested. Otherwise, we will not go ahead. So that's an example, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you have a lot of such situations where founders do not have it in them to. There are some founders who are go-getters. There are some founders who sit back and say, "Nahi, theek hai, kya karenge?" We don't want such guys. We want guys who are very, very passionate and who say, "Boss, I'm going to make it work." We want people like that.
Yeah. Passionate and persistent along with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, you're right. One of the things in the persistent framework is the English meaning of the word persistent. But you've got to be persistent because you will have ups and downs. You'll have a lot of downs. You have to be persistent. You have to keep on and on at it to make sure you actually survive.
I was actually listening to a podcast a couple of days back by, I don't remember his name, the one who's the founder of Parachute Oil. So I was actually listening to him.
Okay.
He,
Parachute oil is Marico.
yeah, Mariko. So the owner of
Marico.
that, so he was doing a podcast somewhere. So he said, "Key passion is important, but more important is the
Yes.
persistency.
It's
Because
a both are required. Both are
because
required.
everyone is going
Yes.
to fail eventually somewhere down the line. So you got to be persistent. Yeah, you got to get up every day.
Mariwala, Harsh Mariwala, his name
Hanji,
is.
Hanji, Hanji, Hanji. Exactly. Harsh
Harsh
Mari.
Mariwala. Yeah. The
Exactly.
chairman of Marico. Correct. Founder, I think, and chairman.
Hmm. So I want to ask you one thing. Like, if say there's a business, let's take an example of my dad's business only. So he's in IT, and he has been doing this business for 22 years now, and turnover should be around 3.54 cr. Is yeah, is yeah, that's the turnover. So someone like him, if he wants to say get an investment, like. How should he go about getting the investors since he has the proof of business? He has been doing it for 20 years now, so the persistence frame is also there. So if he wants to raise
So,
funds for something new, so should he just like go into like people's office? Should he throw in some LinkedIn, email, or cold calling? What should be his process for it?
so what is the nature of his business? He develops software.
No, so wholesale, and he has his own RAM brand as well, by the name of Sensible, and he has lately started this laptop charger and adapters by his name. So yeah, he wants to scale it up. So that's what. Yeah. So how should he go
Okay.
about?
So basically, he manufactures and markets under his own brand
Yes,
laptop chargers and adapters, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
And all the other things as well. He does AMC for computers, maintenance,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. That
Okay.
goes
Okay.
that's there. But then there's this.
So, okay, great. So I will answer this question in two parts.
Hmm.
Part one is if somebody wants funding, what do they do? Right. And part two, I'll come to your father's business because that's a slightly different case. It's not very easy to get funding for his business, I must tell you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So first of all, if you look at what you need to do, see, we have at, when you want to raise money at the first instance, the first time you're raising external money, typically you will go to angel investors, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And angel investors, you can normally raise about anywhere between 50 lakhs and about 3 odd crores,
Hmm.
or most people prefer to say $500,000 because it sounds so much more glamorous,
Cooler.
right?
Yeah,
But
it
it's
sounds
all in
much cooler.
rupees. Much more cool. I mean, you can brag about, look, I raised half a mil. I mean, you don't even have to mention the currency, but you say 3 crores.
Hmm.
Jaya, I don't care. That's the problem. So anyway, so you obviously there are today about 20,000 plus angel investors in the country, right? Obviously, you can't approach them individually, right? So what we have about 20 to 25 odd angel networks, right? And lead angels, which I'm a part of, is one of them. So the angel network typically is a group. It's an organization which has angel investors as members, right? So we have at Lead Angels about 200 members, and most such angel networks will have 200, 300, 100, such members, right? So we have angel investors as members, and we have startups that approach the network for funding, right? So the right way to do it is the startup approaches one or more networks. Normally, you'll approach either one or about two or three. It doesn't make sense to approach 10 of them, right?
Yeah.
So you approach the network, and then the network will evaluate your startup. If it seems to be worth funding, then it will ask you to make a presentation to all its members. And based on that, then, the business analysis happens, the due diligence happens, and finally the funding happens. So essentially, to raise money, you need to move towards, you need to go and contact one or more angel networks. Right?
Yeah.
So that's essentially how it works. Now, just to talk about your father's business, since you mentioned that, there are two issues with your father's business. In fact, I will split the business into two parts. One is a product business, right, where he's manufacturing and marketing.
Yeah.
Now, that is not manpower intensive, right? Because, I mean, he can manufacture in a factory. He doesn't need, I mean, in case he needs to double the output, he doesn't need to double the number of people in the company, right? So it's not it is not a manpower intensive business, and therefore it is scalable, right? On the other hand, if you look at the other parts of the business, which is AM maintenance and so on, that is very highly manpower intensive. Right? That part is not scalable, because when you want to scale up, what happens? You'll need to add so much more manpower. When you need to add so much more manpower, you need to add so much more infrastructure, buildings, office space, etc., right? ACs and so on. So investors normally look for highly scalable startups. And any investor, whether it's an angel or a VC, or it doesn't matter. So typically, investors would look at pure startups which are highly scalable. And like I said, the first part of the business is highly scalable. It's easier to get funding for that than for the rest of the business.
With the same process, go to the network and then just start talking to them, show them.
Same process. Process is exactly the same. Correct. The second issue is that, your father, his business is not a sexy business. It is not a glamorous business as of today. So, what is glamorous today? Agri-tech is glamorous.
Exactly.
EdTech is glamorous, right? Blockchain is glamorous, right? Machine learning is glamorous. Manufacturing, your laptop chargers is not glamorous.
Exactly.
And therefore, you don't get your investor excited. Because investors see, boss, electric vehicles is glamorous. Boss, 10 saal baad, I'll be a millionaire. So these guys, because they're taking such a risk, they want to invest in industries which are, much talked about, glamorous, the future, etc. That's one more reason. I would say in your father's case, the best option probably is to take debt funding from a bank.
Yeah. Okay. And so how did you reach to a decision of being an investor? Like for you personally, was it like passion for working with startups, or was it money that you think like, it's better than putting money in real estate?
No. I mean, see, quite honestly, my simple advice to everybody is, if you want to become an angel investor, not more than 3 to 5% of your total corpus should be in startups, because it's a very risky business. Right? I would call that, in fact, Deep Kalra of Make My Trip, the founder of Make My Trip, he uses a very nice term. He says, this is play money. So this is the money. So I must tell you quietly, this is the money that my wife has told me I can play with. The rest of it, I have to invest in solid things like, fixed deposits or whatever, the house I live in, or, Reliance Industries ka share, or HDFC Bank share, or whatever. So definitely not. It is not something where you can say, okay, 50% of my money goes into startups. You'd be a fool if you do that. So don't. The way I started was very simple. See, I was a prof at MDI, and a lot of students used to come to me for guidance. And a lot of students and a lot of alumni from MDI. And they said, sir, this is our startup. So I used to get involved. I used to keep guiding them. At the end, they would say, sir, paisa bhi dal do. We also need to raise money. Now, for students, my students, I found it difficult to say no. So I used to put money into
Yeah, because you
startups
would
and
have to see them again and again every day, and you're like, "Haan, do
I,
paise."
I can't say no. I can't say no. If I say no, who's going to fund them, right?
Yeah,
So then I used to introduce them to Lead Angel, and through Lead Angel, we would get money. That is how it started. And it continues. It continues, but I'm very clear. I will not exceed 5% of my corpus. It's too risky.
yeah.
It's great fun. You know, of the 10 startups that you invest in, one will do brilliantly,
Hmm.
right? But you don't know which one that is. You don't know. It may be none of these 10. So it's
Hmm.
risky.
Hmm. Hmm.
7 of them may die. In fact,
Hmm.
of the startups I invested in, I think about 4 so far have died. They just
Hmm.
died.
Out of
Right? They
10,
just collapsed. Out of 12.
out
Out
of
of 12.
12, four, right? Yeah.
4 have collapsed. 4, 5 are doing okay. And about 3 are doing very well. Very well.
Hmm.
And let's see how they carry on.
Hmm.
So that's how I started. And today it's great fun. Like I told you, it's my third career.
Hmm. So, what do you think is the role of startups, sir? Like in a financial ecosystem or like ecosystem in general? Like, what's the role of a startup? Is it to get money and give it back to society, that money, or like what exactly is the role of a startup?
So I think
Or
the
should
biggest
be,
role,
what should be an ideal role of a startup?
yeah, see the biggest role, I think the biggest role is that, these are youngsters brimming with ideas,
Hmm.
a lot of energy, lot of passion in most cases. These are the guys who can show us new directions. All right. They can take the economy in new directions. Right. So if you go back 25 years in time, when Sanjeev Bikhchandani started Naukri,
Hmm.
that was a completely new direction. There was no concept of getting, jobs on the net. He
Hmm.
started. And today, that's what everybody is doing. All employment is online, right? Or you look at
So you
Sachin and
started
Billy
this
Walton.
back in 95? Is that
Yeah, somewhere in the 90s, before
oh,
2000. Yes.
okay.
It's a very old company
Hmm.
by startup standards, right? Or you look at Byju's, which started what, about 3, 4 years back,
Yeah.
5 years back, maybe,
Hmm. Hmm.
or OYO rooms, right? The fact that you can have a branded middle class hotel chain, the
Hmm.
concept didn't exist, right? So
Yeah.
the problem is, our current, let's say the old economy stalwarts, so the Mahindras, the Tatas, the Birlas, the Ruiyas, the Bajajes, they are typically they are so large that they are not so nimble.
Hmm.
They're not nimble, right? These youngsters identify one bright idea and they just run with it. And a lot of what you see today is basically because youngsters created something completely new. And now that is being copied, and now that's the future, right? So I think startups are really, it's an absolute blessing for India, and not just India, any country for that matter, to boom ahead, because there are these guys who will pick up bright new ideas, quickly run with them, which a Birla or a Tata or a Bajaj or well, Ambani probably can. Mukesh Ambani is still a startup founder at heart, right?
Hmm.
But I don't think anybody else can. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, employment opportunity is huge, because every startup initially will employ at least what, 3, 4 people, and ultimately some of them have what, 15,000, 10,000 guys, 5,000 guys. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So,
basically, it is chalking out tomorrow's directions.
hmm. Beautiful. So there was this stand-up comedian sir, who actually said why I don't want to do business is because मैं कुछ भी करूंगा मुकेश अंबानी से तो आगे ही नहीं निकल सकता तो लाइफ में ऐसा करना ही क्यों है जब तुम मुकेश से हार जाओ तो
So,
लाइफ में
ऐसा
किया
है,
है क्या कि तुम मुकेश से हार गए
नहीं, वो तो भगवान भी हार गया ना. अनिल अंबानी हार गया, मुकेश, सब हार गए.
नहीं
Look,
मुकेश इन
what's very
जनरल द
difficult.
नेम ही सेइंग क्योंकि वो मुकेश वो पान वाली एड में भी आता है
Okay.
So what I want to ask you, like, what makes or breaks a deal for you when you're investing in a startup? Same thing, persistency. They should be persistent and they should like have something like at the core, or they should be specialized in what they're talking about as in startup. So what makes or breaks a deal for you?
So I think as far as the founder is concerned, like I told you,
Hmm.
uh, persistence, passion, attention to detail is very important. The guy who doesn't really have the figures in his from his business offhand. Oh, sir, I don't know. I will tell you. It's a warning flag, because if you're running a business, and that too a tiny little business like a startup, you have to have the figures, here. You
Yeah.
can't say I'll get back. I'll check with my cashier, my accountant, whatever. I think one other very important thing that we look for is we do not want, we are very, very paranoid about founders who try to fool us. And that happens sometimes, right? So
How
he's
can that
fudged
happen?
data.
Like a registered. Acha,
He's
acha.
fudged
Okay.
data, right? Or he's told us something which actually is not true. There was one very good startup which we almost invested in. Then I don't know how we discovered that they had taken a loan of some 3 crores. We said, why didn't you tell us? Oh, no, sir, I thought it was unimportant. At a stroke, decision taken, we will not go ahead, right? So you cannot fool us. You shouldn't try and fool us. We don't like people who are smart alecks. We like people who are grounded, who realize that there are problems, who realize that they have weaknesses and accept them. Because we also realize they're human beings.
Yeah.
So I think that is one. So I'll tell you one more thing, and I'll give you a story, and that will tell you what founders today look for, because COVID actually has, in a very bizarre sense, simplified the lives of investors. And I'll explain how.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very simple story. This is a story of an interesting startup called Iril Farms. All right, Iril Farms. They were into natural farming. There is this buzz today about organic food, organic farms, and so on. Right? So they were not farming, but they realized that there were only certain pockets in the country, very few pockets, where farmers were doing natural farming, which is without pesticides and chemical fertilizers, right? And there is a big market for that. So what they did was they identified one such pocket in Himachal, just between Shimla and Solan, which is my hometown area, by the way. So they identified that area, and they said, look, we will pick up, we have a collection center, we'll pick up natural produce from there, bring it to Gurgaon, actually Manesar, but let's assume Gurgaon, clean it, sort it out, package it, brand it under the brand Iril, and then give it to retailers. And people are willing to pay 30-40% extra. Wonderful, great business model. Then what happened? COVID hit them, right? Their supply chain came from where? Himachal. In the first 2 months, the entire supply chain, entire transport from Himachal to Gurgaon stopped.
Yeah.
They couldn't get natural stuff, right? So they would have died. The business would have just died, right? But they said, look, we have to survive. So what they said was, right now, because of the lockdown and because of, transport being messed up completely, even the normal vegetables, so they were in the area of natural, organic, right? But even the normal ones, which are grown using pesticides and chemical fertilizers, even that is not very easily available in retail shops. So what we will do is, we will go to local farmers around Gurgaon. We'll tell them, boss, mandis are closed. You're not able to reach the mandi. How will you sell? You sell it to us. We will supply it to retail outlets. So they did that, which means for those 2 months, they were not supplying natural products at all, only conventional products. But in that period, because they were one of the few guys doing it, their business boomed.
But
right?
Isn't that ethically wrong? Like,
no, it's not. No. So hold on. So they were not doing it under the Iril brand. They were very clear. This is normal stuff. We don't want to contaminate the Iril brand. You're absolutely right. You can't fool the customer, right? But basically, they survived, they grew, and now that things are back to normal, they've stopped that, and now they're back to their natural stuff. But because for those 2 months they were supplying to retailers, right? The retailers had a very good equation with them. Look, these guys are reliable suppliers, so they will continue with them. So what we took out of this was that, these guys, these founders are fighters. So when COVID hit, or when any crisis of this kind hits, demonetization, for example, when COVID hit, there are some founders who just sat back and said, अरे बॉस मर गया, कुछ नहीं कर सकता, sack करो, I'll go into hibernation for 6 months. These guys were fighters. They said, no, we will continue, we'll fight. And today they are much stronger than they were earlier. So why I said it becomes easier for the investor is post COVID, we are able to figure out who the fighters are and who are the guys who sat back and just accepted defeat. And we only want to invest in the fighters. So in a bizarre way, in a unfortunate way, COVID has separated the men from the boys.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
And incidentally, that is true of any crisis. Tomorrow there is a new crisis of whatever kind. Again, it will separate the men from the boys.
Of course, of course. So, like, what do you think personally, like, if an entrepreneur wants to grow from being a boy to a man, what should he go through? Like, fail in like couple of startups, or like, what should be the journey of this transformation from being a not so cool entrepreneur to being like a mature entrepreneur?
Sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't hear parts of it.
Yeah, so I'm saying like what is going to be like a regular journey for a person. Like you said, no, that we are able to now differentiate a boy from a man. So like, how can a boy become a man? Like, should he fail in like a couple of startups initially, or like should get a job initially? So what else?
So first of all, that boy and man is a slightly, it's an analogy which may not be, I don't think we can stretch it so much, because I was basically distinguishing between
Experience or
boys.
non-experience? Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not saying experience. I'm saying the ability to fight it out, to last it out, to say I'm going to win, right? So I'm saying there are a very large number of people who are boys, and frankly, they should remain boys. Okay. So, guys, creating a startup, running a business of your own, you should ask your father, is a 24/7 job, right?
Yes.
I mean, you have a crisis, you get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, you get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, you have to answer it. You cannot say, no, this is the time I'm going to sleep. So, and there will be all kinds of issues. If you're in fintech, the RBI will suddenly change rules. All right. You look at Ola cabs, suddenly the government has brought in rules and regulations for such taxi aggregators, which earlier did not exist. Right? So, you'll always have some kind of issues or the other, and therefore it's a 24/7 battle. I think each person has to decide for himself whether he's the right person for that kind of battle or not. Everybody doesn't have to be a gung-ho entrepreneur. I mean, there are so many jobs out there. I mean, there are jobs with great companies, Hindustan Lever, Infosys, TCS, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank. So lots and lots of people are basically meant to be guys who take employment, and therefore they should be in jobs. Be happy in your job. But if you have this desire, this, inner fire in your belly, look, I have got to do something on my own. That is when you should branch out.
Yeah.
But I would say don't branch out too early. Some guys, by the way, branch out within college itself. And in fact, I've seen cases where people have not even finished their final year of IIT or BITS Pilani because they are so confident about their business. Right? So if you have that fire in the belly, and if you have studied the problem well enough and you understand the industry well enough, by all means, you don't need experience. If you don't, then it's a good idea to get a couple of years experience, learn at somebody else's expense, right? Do a job, and then look for a startup. But one very important thing I would always suggest, it's extremely important to have a co-founder.
Yeah.
2 or 3 is always a good idea for multiple reasons. One, of course, is the risk. And 2 is, they bring different strengths to the table. Exactly. So one guy may be a solid tech guy, the other guy may be a solid marketing sales guy. Right? It's very difficult to have one founder who has everything. I mean, you have very rare people like that. Mukesh Ambani is one of them. Yes. But I mean, not everybody can be like Mukesh Bhai, isn't it? So it's a good idea to have. So that's what I'm saying. If you are clear, you want to show the world, by all means do it early. Not a problem. But if you're not clear, don't get into startups. It's a tough area. It's tough. It's very rewarding, but it's also tough.
So, like roadblocks to look out for when you're just starting out, as a startup?
I think the I think the biggest mistake people make, if you ask me,
Hmm.
is to underestimate competition
Hmm.
and to underestimate who your competitor can be.
Hmm.
Because sometimes the existing guy is not your competitor. It is
Hmm.
somebody from a different field who says, "Oh God, this is a great extension to my business. I'll get in." Right? I'll give
Hmm.
you a very simple example. I invested in a company, very interesting company called Quaco,
Hmm.
which is similar to Make My Trip, except that they focus on boutique, small size resorts. Right? So Make My Trip will get you bookings in any hotel anywhere. Right? But these guys only focused on small size resorts, boutique resorts, very special kind of resorts. For example, um, fishing holiday in a special
Hmm.
resort in Kerala.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that kind of
Hmm.
thing. Now, they did this, and they told the owners of these resorts, said, "Look, boss, on Make My Trip, firstly, you're not even being listed. But even if you are so low down that you'll never get discovered. We focus on your kind, therefore, we will send emails to our clients, and therefore, you will get good occupancy." And the hotel owners were very happy, the resort owners. They said, "Okay, wonderful. We will give you a bigger discount than Make My Trip, than we give to Make My Trip." And these guys were very happy, right?
Yeah.
The problem is discounts can never be an entry barrier, right?
Hmm.
So when Make My Trip realized this,
Hmm.
they said, "Hang on, this seems to be an interesting option, and we can afford to make a loss, which Quaco cannot.
Hmm.
So no problem. We will give a heftier discount."
Hmm.
And anybody who goes for a holiday will obviously compare prices across different aggregator sites. And they found initially these guys were cheaper, but ultimately they found they could not compete with the bigger guys like Make My Trip and Yatra, and they
That's
had to close
brutal,
down.
no? That's really brutal.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
that happens. So
Hmm.
I think being naive about the fact that Make My Trip would not enter my business, I think that was the mistake. But I must also say, by the way, these were my students, both of them. And I must say, they're very bright guys, very bright guys. They have learned a hell of a lot from this. And I think whenever they plan to start their next startup, I am very clear it was not their mistake. It was something that I think all of us were learning. I
Yes.
am very clear I will invest in their venture once again. And I hope they're listening to this.
Hmm. So how long was the journey for this Quaco? How long did this
Waco,
last?
I think they survived around 3.5 years.
Hmm.
They also realized they were smart. They realized that they couldn't drag it on any further, and therefore they decided to quit. Some people keep dragging it on till the money in the bank is zero. That's wrong. It doesn't make sense. And they returned some money to us as investors.
So a little dramatic, can we go? Since I like to put some drama. So one thing, like I want to ask you, like, is there anything that you think that you had known back in your school or back in college that you know right now, but if you had known it back then, things would have been much easier or would have been much smoother. Is there anything of that sort?
Are you referring to my journey as an angel investor?
As in anything in life. He just say, I'll give you an example. Like there's this
Okay.
friend of mine. So he once told me he's homosexual. So till the age of 24, he did not know he was dating girls till 24. Then later he realized. So he said, dude, if I had known this back in school, things would have been so much smoother and you know cooler for me. So yeah, something of that sort that you think, this special thing, if I had known this back in school or this experience I had back then things would have been so much smoother for me.
I don't have that problem, fortunately.
It's not a problem,
Well, I
sir.
don't have that situation.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
that situation.
Or maybe see,
But
like for my example, like I used to think like, back in school that I would be a rapper, like rap music and hip hop music. And later I evolved to be a music producer. So if I had known that, I would have been producing music since school, or so I had like gained knowledge of classical music and things would have been so much easier and I would have straight away moved to Bombay. So something like that.
I don't think I have anything so dramatic,
Hmm.
but yes, one of the um, so my parents have
Hmm.
always been very, very uh, academically inclined, right?
Hmm.
And they have been what I would call non-worldly wise, right?
Hmm.
And therefore not money-minded at all. So non-worldly wise is the positive way to look at it. Not money-wise is probably a negative way. So that's the way I was brought up as a child. And as an investor, and I keep going back, I have been investing in the stock market for what, 40 years now, right? And of course, angel investing now. But I have never been particularly good at it
Academic.
because I do a lot of it based on excitement.
Hmm.
And ठीक है, हो गया, I've lost money, too bad. I have lost hefty amounts of money, too bad.
Hmm.
That's okay.
Hmm.
So if I had known that, if I had been able to correct it early on, yes, I would probably have made money, which I have not been able to.
Hmm.
But quite honestly, I have no regrets because
Of course.
I, I don't think money is so important. But yes, I would probably have made much more money. And you may have been seeing me talk to you not out of my house here, but maybe out of a house in golf links
Hmm.
had I made more money. But that's unimportant.
Yeah.
I think the important thing in life, Arpit, is to enjoy life, to have fun, and to have no regrets.
At all stages in life.
And I don't think I have any. Yeah, there is one regret I have. I must tell you.
Hmm.
Uh, when I was a student at IIT Delhi, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the one institute which we all looked up to
Hmm.
globally was MIT,
Hmm.
Massachusetts
Yeah.
Institute of
Yeah.
Technology, right?
Hmm.
So I always wanted to go there to study.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, I couldn't. So that's the only regret I have. Look, I could have gone there. I haven't been there. But other than that, absolutely no regrets in life. I think that is fine.
Hmm. So good to know that.
And anyway, like I told you, my career is just beginning.
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly. So, how did like COVID affect your routine, let's say, when Modi ji announced that from 22nd of March everything is going to be shut? What was your frame of mind back then? Yeah, we have to stay in the home.
So I would say, Arpit, I think we guys have been among the fortunate ones because we were not impacted financially,
Yeah.
right? Unfortunately, you see so many of our people in the country
Hmm.
who have been impacted financially because they've lost their jobs. Of course, villagers going back to the village and so on. So, fortunately, that has not been an issue. Financial has not been an issue. Yes, we have been forced to stay at home, but I don't think that's a major issue.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say the amount of time we've had has suddenly gone up significantly because we don't spend time driving in Delhi traffic for
Hmm.
2 hours every day, right? So I used to go to Gurgaon from Delhi, and it used to take me about 2 hours every day, 1 hour going, 1 hour coming.
Yeah.
And suddenly that's gone. Okay, that's number one. That's one. Second, I think what has also happened is time spent with the family has gone up,
Hmm.
definitely. So, in fact, very interestingly, my daughter lives with her husband, and I have a granddaughter, so a baby. So they live in Bombay. They happen to come here, but because of all the restriction and so on and so forth, they have been here for about 2 months, and I hope they'll be here for a little more time.
Hmm.
So I've never been able to spend so much time with these two kids after she got married, and of course with my granddaughter. So that's a huge plus point, huge plus point. Otherwise, I think the fact that you are restricted to the home, we do exercises at home, that's okay. I walk inside the house and so on. We have a stationary bike, we are able to do that. So I don't think it's an issue. Yes, you can't meet friends, you can't go out. We didn't go out too much anyway. I don't think it's too much of an issue. I think the guys who are really impacted are the guys who went to either hospital or the guys who were financially impacted.
Yeah, who are
We, touch
walking
wood, have
back to
been
their
fortunate.
homes, no?
Yeah, we've been fortunate, I think.
Hmm. One more, like a little intense. You can choose to answer or not to answer it. Like any rock bottom experience in your life, and what did you learn from it? Can you share some?
Yes. So after I passed out of IIT Delhi, I had got a scholarship, a full scholarship, to study for my master's in the US, which was actually Case Western Reserve University. So the problem was I had some problem with my sinus throat, this area. And just before I went to the US, that had to be operated upon. So when I left, I was not completely okay, but there was no choice. I couldn't delay my departure. Once I was there, the problem was this thing started hurting. Okay, and it hurt quite a bit, and it became much worse during the winters because it was snowing over there, very, very cold. Plus, unfortunately, I had no insurance because, well, I had insurance, but this was something which was which I had before the insurance was taken, pre-existing illness. So I had no insurance and I had no money. I had no money apart from whatever little I got. That was a very tough time, very, very tough time. So finally, I had to get one more surgery done there. And it was a very decent doctor, very, very decent doctor, Indian. He says, look, I will not charge you. Don't worry. But you have to have the surgery. So I went through the surgery. And finally, the local the county welfare board paid for my hospital expenses. And I saved up enough money to come back home within 1 year. I couldn't finish my master's because I was not well. So that was, I think, probably the toughest time I'd faced. But, like I said in one of my earlier statements, actually, that was probably the time I became a man from a boy. A tough time for those 9 months, and I had to fight it out. I couldn't give up. I didn't have money to come home initially, right? And I had no sources to get that money from. So I think going through some such tough times in life actually strengthens you. So that's probably the toughest time I faced.
So that helps you. These rock bottom experiences helps you.
And by the way, I had a teaching assistantship, and I couldn't speak because it was hurting. So it was very tough. I had to teach to earn money, but to support myself, I couldn't speak. So it was a very tough time. But fortunately, that's past.
And God bless. So that's it. That's what I wanted to ask, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you would like to ask me, or would you like to know something?
No, I think that's fine, Alfred. It was great talking to you.
Same,
and have lots of fun. And hopefully, very soon we'll get a vaccine and we'll beat the hell out of this virus.
This COVID, this flu, it's very irritating. A flu can do this,
The biggest problem here, Arpit, is it is like flu, you're right. So the flu itself is okay. The problem is that flu hits your immune system, and therefore other problems come up. That is the dangerous part. The pneumonia in the lungs. That is the dangerous part. Hopefully, we'll be able to beat the hell out of it. I can guarantee we'll beat the hell out of it. So don't worry. Don't worry.
Since you're 2-3 years elder to me, so you are.
Yes. Good, you remember. By the way, where do you live?
I'm in Kalkati.
Oh, very close. I'm in GK2.
Oh, you're nearby. I actually went there yesterday.
But we can't meet because it's COVID. And by the way, my building right now is a containment zone till tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow we all tested positive. So tomorrow we should be okay.
14 days I will get away.
Actually, now it's 17 days.
Oh, okay.
So tomorrow is going to be the 17th day. After that, we can party, but we will not.
Yes. Apparently it's 1 month or something, no? You got to be at home for a month, even if it's like 17
Sorry?
days of. Like one has to be at home for a month, even if it's even if you're contained for
17 from the day of testing.
Okay.
17 days from the day of testing. And that is the WHO standard. That is the government standard. So we'll just stick to that.
And now you can just walk out and go in the parks and
No, no,
chill
no.
together.
But see, exactly. See, all the earlier precautions we'll still have to maintain. So
Hmm.
mask is still required. Social
Hmm.
distancing is still required. I have my mask here. I have my mask all over the place.
If I might just start
Don't go into
sneezing, you'll
crowds.
just put the mask on.
Correct. Wash your hands all the time, repeatedly. Sanitize. All these are in any case to be done.
Hmm.
It is just that we've crossed that one hump, which is we've gone through this. And in fact, my son-in-law was in hospital. Fortunately, he's also back now.
This is the one good thing that I like about this is what has happened. Sanitization. We were so careless about it before. Yeah, now everyone is carrying sanitizer.
Correct. You are absolutely right. In fact, hopefully it will teach the average Indian to become a little more careful about these things. I'll give you one chotu example, very interesting example. Japan is considered to be a developed country. It's at par with the US, Germany, Canada, and so on, right? Probably ahead of them in some cases. We went there about 4 years back, and there was no pandemic, there was no flu, nothing at that time. And we found a lot of the people on the street were actually wearing a mask.
Yes.
And that is a part of their culture, which is one reason why Japan was not too badly affected by COVID.
Yeah, they did not even put the lockdown.
And it's part of their discipline. It's a very disciplined race. So if we start taking these simple precautions, not only COVID, even from other things, we can become far more protected. I think it's a very good thing that, well, a lot of horrible things have happened. Unfortunately, so many deaths, so many people, getting into hospital and so on. But the silver lining is this, that maybe some habits will change for the better.
Even in the religious institution, they have this thing, like when Muslim people enter the mosque, they have to do the wuzu, and even in the Gurudwara, they have to be. So yeah, they have inculcated this thing since like centuries.
But the average person, the common man, does not follow these. You go on the street. So when I go on the street, of course, last 15 days I haven't been there. But when you go on the street, I used to ask people, "Bhai, आपका mask कहाँ है?" वो देखो जी जेब में है. मास्क जेब में क्या करेगा? What the hell is the purpose? Mask तो इतना होना चाहिए. Or they wear it very stylishly like this. This damn thing is open. What is the purpose of it?
So there's this guy who actually went for Bihar elections to do the coverage and everything. So he was asking a guy over there, "Where's your mask?" तो कह रहे अरे वो छोड़ो ना, क्या मास्क क्या करना, मैं अपनी बात बता रहा हूँ. कह रहे अरे मास्क पहना, आपके मुंह से फूंक आ रही है भैया. वो पीछे वाला उसका दोस्त उसको अपना मास्क पहना देता.
So, like I said, silver lining, hopefully some things will change.
Yeah. So, thank you, sir.
ठीक है boss?
Yes.
Chalo.
Thank you. Take care, sir. See you soon.
Thanks. All the best.
Bye-bye. Take care, sir.
All the
See
best.
You. Bye-bye.
And someday we'll meet after COVID.
Yes, sir. Yes, for sure. Your wish is my command.
Chalo. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care, sir.